Manhood, brought to you by Jameson, natural sources since 1922, and Racetrack.
So thank you for joining us again on Manhood. We've had so many really great conversations. Some have been absolutely epic. And you think you go into this subject knowing, having done your research, and then you come out of it with so much more knowledge and a whole other point of view, which is really good and which is what the show is about. We're not here to give our own opinions. We're here as a few persons talking to everyone. And once again, I'm delighted to have another female on Manhood. And let me do the introductions once again. Awon, Behavior Change Consultant. Sherine, Pollard, really happy to have her finally in the seat at
Good
Manhood.
to be here, thank you.
Manager of gender-based violence at the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And Thaddy Boom, entertainer, singer, actor, you name it, he's done it. Thaddeus, is really good to have you to get a whole other perspective. Man. And from also a generational perspective, which is really great. You know, one of the things we want to make sure we're meeting everyone where they're at, and to meet them where they're at, you have to be in that place. So I would say, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to call anybody by age, but I think that we have a good, you know, a lot of diversity here in
Nothing wrong with calling people by age. That's the truth.
Equity,
I'm 21.
Of course. So, you know, again, as we on Manhood do, it's all about being very open, very straightforward. There's no cover for your mouth, as they say. And today's topic.
No cover?
No cover. That'll be for that. So, you know, we're always very respectful of Tat, of course. Tat, one of the things that is a burning topic, you know, I marinated so much as to how we bring all this entire conversation into like a melting pot. And, you know, Sherine and I have had many a conversation that actually was part of starting off Manhood in the first place. And the subject or the topic I came up with, or the phrase, is just say no. And in just saying no, you immediately go to the space of a woman and a man, or a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, basically sexual interaction. And that's where it normally comes from. But we're going to talk about it across the gamut, what it means to really just say no. And that means the burning topic that most women have on their lips, and men, to a certain extent, equality, equity, all of it. I'm just gonna do, like, you know, I just want to really sit back in this one and just enjoy the conversation.
All right.
And
all right, so you throw out just say no, and then you throw out equality versus equity.
So just to put it in context, so the whole just say no, apart from us going to be discussing it with regards to sex, and when a woman says no, she really means no, and we're going into all the chivalry dead, dating, all of these different things. The just say no with regards to equality, right, is women in what could be considered in a male-dominated environment, and what women really want. And part of that, as we quote our good friend Dr. Jordan Peterson, is women, for the most part, are the gender that's more agreeable.
Okay.
I know you're waiting to fire. But notice I said it in context. What Dr.
I don't disagree.
Said,
yeah.
Women are more agreeable, and as a result, in order to be able to get to those positions, they have to do what men themselves may be open or have committed to doing. So, working 80-hour weeks to be entirely focused, give up everything that you can to get those particular jobs. If a woman wants to also achieve that, she has to be almost take on those male traits and just say no to being so agreeable. So I'm just, again, Dr. Jordan Peterson, I'm just putting that out there, and let's go.
All right, so I could start. Women being more agreeable. I agree with that because generally women tend to make decisions based on emotion more than logic. So if we go in agreeable, then you would think about, well, how the person might feel, how if it might look bad, etc., etc. So even when negotiating, because I remember the example he gave was when women negotiating salary. Most women don't negotiate well because they're wondering, they even thinking about the company, like if the company have enough money, can they pay me how it might look versus a man saying, there's the job I'm doing, you either pay me
or you can't pay me.
Or you don't pay me. So generally, I would agree with what Jordan Peterson saying that women are more agreeable in general, and that's why sometimes women do succeed in the workplace, because the things a man might ask for, even have the
I like that.
Pun intended, right? Man. To ask for, a woman may not be able.
I just want to interject there.
Your name is not Sherine.
Well, no, but I know it's not.
Okay, go ahead, and I'll go.
I know, ladies are always first, right? But it's just when he made the analogy to, don't have the balls. Mm-hmm. And it's just always a pet peeve I've had that, where did that ever come from? You don't have the balls to do something. You don't say cojones, testicular fortitude. But, you kick a man in the balls, and that's like the Achilles heel. You go down on the ground, so the balls, the whole fact that you're using that as a position,
indicator of power somehow.
Is a bit of an oxymoron.
Yes and no. So
I think it's power though, but
let me tell you why.
Let
me tell you. You see that argument, what you say there? That argument actually came from a woman. So what you're doing is parroting an argument of a woman. That's one, eh?
Right.
Two is that it came from, and it could be erroneous.
Not so bad, parroting an argument from a woman. That's not.
I didn't say it was bad, eh? I didn't say it was bad, eh? I didn't say it was bad.
Just hide it a little bit.
I didn't say it was bad.
The man didn't say that at all.
That was an insinuation, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
With sometimes women jump to in terms of conclusion.
Oh my God,
right?
Okay. I want to challenge something as we continue. I want to count how many times you say some women before you start a sentence in this discussion.
Okay.
And tell me if that's just not very much a generalization. So is it that you feel that you maybe know enough or have done enough research or has had enough life experience to be able to say confidently, this is what some women do? I'm just saying.
Do you prefer to say a percentage of women?
I prefer that to speak on behalf of women. So
listen, let's just drop the
Well, okay. I'll consider what you're saying before I say it. I'll consider that before saying. But I like what you said in terms of percentage. So let me go back to the point you're saying about the cajon. No. That term came from because in general, it was generally thought that a man was more assertive in certain actions, and a man in terms of physical aggression and action. So when you use, even though I agree, a vagina by technical is stronger. Physiology, a vagina is stronger than So I get what you're saying, but that's not the context it was used. It's more in terms of the masculine energy and aggression and assertion.
You're talking about a man.
Correct.
So I'll see it as. You understand?
So before that analogy came up and I interjected, I apologize. Sure, you were making a point.
I'm trying to remember now.
To counter Johan's.
We were talking about women being more agreeable.
Women being more agreeable. So I think it's society's expectations and the roles that are placed on women that makes them more agreeable. So if you look at the roles that they're placed in, right? So motherhood, they automatically, become agreeable to some extent. I guess taking care of a house, right? So you become more agreeable that way. Women would generally within the workforce as well started off in these support positions, right? So when you're in these support positions, you're like, okay, yes, whatever you need, that kind of thing. So I think it's a societal kind of expectation on women that women have adopted. And it's not necessarily wrong, it's just the way society has just evolved, right? But I hear what you're saying in terms of maybe women not negotiating for a better salary because they're worried about the organization not having enough money. I can very much say I've never cared about an organization's budget when it came to negotiating my salary. And I hear what you're saying But there, on the other spectrum of that, there are women who really within the workplace, it's very difficult to get that kind of equity as it relates to pay. In a job that I very recently had.
Call names now.
No, I can't do that.
Okay, cool.
I learned that myself and a male counterpart, we both came into the organization at the same time, and he received a significant amount more money than I did, and we had almost the exact qualifications.
And you attributed that immediately to the fact that he was a male?
Absolutely, 100%.
What was the actual reason why?
Probably was
Because
greasing
that-
something on that
What was
table.
the actual proven
Just
reason
saying.
why?
And I believe it's that because as well, my background
we can't go
my
believe
background
in
is in law enforcement and child protection and that sort of thing. So it's all very heavily male dominated.
Belief is not
And
RC.
Exactly.
So therefore,
Belief is perception.
it's
Lack of
perception.
empirical
I am telling
evidence.
you, that's what the same way he can say some woman is the same way I'm saying.
That different thing. That don't balance out. So did you think to ask him?
No, because I wasn't in a position to do that, and just it wouldn't look right, being still employed there. So it's kind of just something that you have to kind
Now
of
you
take
see
and
what you said
swallow.
there, it wouldn't look right. That's an example of the agreeableness. Because a man might say, I hear about this man getting
But
more
don't you
money
get
than
what
me.
I mean?
I want to find
going
out.
on there.
No,
So you understand where the agreeableness
In a
come in.
corporate environment, you wouldn't do that.
In a what environment?
You wouldn't, no. I think it depends on the industry.
Agreeableness.
I think it
it's
depends.
I had corporate, the
it's
corporate,
agreeable,
yes.
and it's an assumption that because he's male, and I think that there are many situations that I take your point, but I think that there are many situations where. I asked the question up to this morning. I said, I asked a woman, I said, when you're going for a job, a particular job, and we put it in context of in particular environments, and I think even in Jordan Peterson's case, he spoke about the example in Scandinavia, where in a natural order of things, when people had their own decisions to be made, females gravitated to jobs that were
Support-based, emotion-based.
went to a position of being an engineer. Is it then that women are looking and I'm not even using the word some women, I'm just, are women sometimes going for positions and thinking that, and in your case, where it's an assumption that I'm not getting that because
It wasn't an
It's a
assumption.
male.
That was it. That was the reason. There was no other reason.
I think it's an assumption because it doesn't.
It wasn't. You said it wasn't.
Never asked.
And this is why women can't be. This is why women have to fight. Because when we say this is what it was, y'all are coming and saying no.
No. We're not saying no. We're not saying no. It could very well be that.
y'all just said
Hold on,
no.
Sherine. It could very well be that. What we are saying is you're not certain that it is that because you never asked, you never clarify. Nobody say, well, yeah, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Right? No, you may very well be correct. But until we find out and we know for sure, we have no idea.
could it be nepotism? Could it be?
No.
Could it be negotiated better?
Maybe he
'cause I
tickling something
negotiated.
under the table or that. You understand what I'm saying? Let me be real.
And they are
But I am not.
Or he
I am
getting
not.
tickled.
I am not.
Oh.
Okay, and if I was the only person that this happened to, then I would say yes. You know what? Maybe there is some underlying factor. But this happens disproportionately to women when we look at whatever studies. I mean, I know now, like probably in the States, it's a little better in terms of the gender pay gap closing in. And I don't have much research on what it's like in Trinidad, but based on my experience and what I've seen and just anecdotal evidence, it appears that there's a huge gender gap as a result of just being a woman.
So can we bring that into the context as well of then diversity that, for example, if there's a job that's open and you say, okay, well, I have to fill a black quota or I have to fill an Asian quota and I'm hiring somebody based on that as opposed to are they the best person for the job? Now, and people will say, yeah, a lot of times you have to hire someone based on, you have to have a certain quota that you have to fill. But then ask yourself, if you're in a situation of, say, war or on a plane, would you want the best person or would you want diversity or would you want equality?
But then you make it seem like the diverse person is not necessarily the
Not
best
me, I'm just
person.
speaking on behalf, I'm just speaking.
Then why is there a choice? Why is there a choice
to-
between the diversity and being the diverse and being the best. Because
Nah, he didn't say that.
Be the
So
best.
he didn't
they
say
could
that.
also.
We not
right?
saying no, and there it is. It could be either one.
No question.
But your question is posing a choice, right? Is it that I want the diverse person or do I want the best person?
Do you want the best?
I want the best person regardless of who they are, right? But I don't know, I guess.
So military service. You hear the argument all the time that if Trinidad and Tobago decided to go down that road, right, how many women at that point would then decide, hey, they want equality, or they'll decide at that point, hey, I'm good at home, or I'm good at doing something.
I think there is, men do have that to face, where there are a lot of inequalities within the space of being a man, be it being drafted into the military. I know criminal sentences. I know like men are like more likely to receive higher criminal sentences than women. A lot of things, right? A lot of things that child support, alimony, all these things that men. So I'm not saying that men don't have their battles to fight and their war to fight, but their war, I think, also in you guys trying to fight those battles and kind of make awareness. It doesn't
I noticed
necessarily.
you said you guys, so like some women, but okay.
No, I mean you guys as you guys in this room.
Oh, you guys in this room.
As guys in this
Thank you.
room.
Yeah,
But it also, acknowledging women's rights and I guess, that diversity and the disparate data in sexual violence and kind of like domestic violence doesn't negate the fight for the men, right? So it doesn't really have to be, in my opinion, and I don't. So when I said I wasn't a feminist earlier, is that I don't believe one cause is better than the other to some extent. I think human rights is human rights, right?
I could argue with that.
Yeah, and how we go about highlighting awareness on all these different rights is really important. And it's more about, even though, I will say things like, you're saying some women and you're generalizing and all of that. At the end of the day, I still think we're all in one fight because we all have valid biases or differences that happens. So yeah, I forgot what the initial point was, but that.
No, but I take it because it gives us a really good segue. We're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, as we continue on the topic of just say no, we're going from equality, and I still want to continue touching on that particular topic. But as you brought up, where men face in terms of in the criminal system, men have a very unfair. I'm not saying that I want to see more women in prison, but I'm just saying
correct.
It's an unfair, and we talk about even when it comes to domestic violence. So I think this is a good segue to say, okay, let's take a break, and then when we come back, let's really focus on that aspect of just saying no, but we're not giving up on the whole conversation about equality for men and women.
Welcome back to Manhood. Now, the conversation we started about equality between men and women, and we referenced Jordan Peterson's research on women being agreeable in the workplace and that they should be a little more assertive in asking for what they want, or at least even saying no. So in that stead, we moving forward a little bit to the just say no part of it, but we wanted to close off that equality aspect of it, understanding exactly what we mean when we say equality versus between men and women. Now, my thing is that because we are humans, things may not always be equal. And sometimes
Facts.
equality is based on a perception.
Facts.
Right? Now, we could have some numbers with it, but if we're going straight workplace, I remember your reference about women disproportionately paid less than men. That's something you could measure, but as the example you gave in terms of the place you worked, we wasn't too sure exactly what caused it. So there may be some other factors. Tell me what you think.
Well, for one, I think that's the reason why, and I'm going to stand by that. But as it relates to, when I think about equality in the context of men and women, I really see it as more of women and both men having the ability to choose what they want to do, right? And I think that's really the meat and potatoes of, I guess, like the feminist movement. So it's not, in my opinion, it's not really a measure of, does the man have this and does the woman have this and is it 50-50? But to me, in my opinion, it's, okay, so the woman, she can make a choice. She can make a choice to say, I want to work, or maybe I don't want to work. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I don't want to have kids. And because we have to look at the history as well, right? It wasn't only up until a couple of years ago where women were able to work, or even were able to have their own bank accounts, right? And that's very recently. So I think, for me, and my perception of equality is everyone really having the freedom to choose.
So if we go down the road, I mean, Sherine, we've discussed a couple of things on manhood and from masculine energy to toxic masculinity to, I mean, I myself was just about to do it, mansplaining, and I asked myself, is it that in every environment, because, have you ever experienced where, or a situation, or had girlfriends or any colleagues at all, where they've actually said to you that this person got the job because they were male? Like, where does it come from that there's an assumption that the person got the job because they were male? Is it because it's a male-dominated environment?
I don't think it's assumption. I think data shows that. Data clearly shows that women are paid less than men in certain industries. I know, within recent times, that scale has been tipped a bit.
No, but not talking about economies of scale. I'm talking about position. So let's start with position first. In terms of CEOs, I mean, is it in FTSE, for example, I think 7 of the top those companies in Europe have females as the head. So are you speaking, like I'm asking you to pick your poison, like, are you speaking about position, or are we talking about pay, or are we talking about position and pay?
Well, I think they're both related to some sense, right? Because the higher position you are in, the higher that you're paid. But if you were to think of it in the context of Trinidad, and again, I could be biased in my thinking, but I have been in the social service field for a very long time, and I've seen, my job is to interact with families on a daily basis, and I see disparity. I see it very much, and it would be wrong of me to come on here and say it doesn't exist, or maybe my situation is a one-off.
You want to say, hold on, I'm going to jump in here, because again, what I always try to do, and again, it's not an opinion, I'm not chastising you or trying to get a particular, get you to
Thanks
sway
for
in a
not
particular
chastising
way.
me, Robert. Shit.
It's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a clear understanding to those who are listening as to what is the position for us to then have a further discussion about. So when you say position and pay, I'm saying, is it that they're not enough CEOs? Because when you talk about work as a social worker, that's in a relationship, or something that we're going to talk about a bit further in this episode of manhood, or this conversation of manhood. But I'm talking about the workplace, because at home it's something different, where the man might say, okay, well, I have to go out and the woman has to stay home, right? That's it. We're going to get to that. I'm talking about in the workplace, because if we're talking about economies of scale, for example, I always remember with World Cup, the football team, the US football team, had advocated for higher pay or equal pay with men, right? I see that as ludicrous, and I'm going to say that that's my opinion. And the reason for that is typically down to economies of scale. And it's the same reason I would say that footballers like Messi, etc., deserve the pay that they're going to get. Because if men's football is bringing, say, hundreds of billions of dollars, right? There are two arguments here. One, what am I gaining the money from? The clubs, etc., is to come and see this footballer. So if it's for this footballer, and I'm seeing this quality of footballers, then that footballer should get the money, not the management, right? And it's the same thing with regards to females. If more men, or in terms of sponsors, the game is watched more in terms of men's World Cup brings in more money, then they get economies of scale, they get paid more. If women's football does the same, then by all means, economies of scale, pay them equally. But that's not the case. So to say you want more, it means somebody busting. So I want to go ahead, Yonce.
Right, so I'll pull up to one. So what I go into what Sherine was speaking about and then I comment to what you say, right? If it is really because, I mean, I haven't done extensive research, but when the talk about the gender pay gap started in the States, right, I started asking some businessmen here and doing small research, not too significant, and some of the businessmen actually said, you know, if they could actually pay a woman less, it would be better for their business. And they were showing me that it really do exist because a businessman, if I could have more employees and pay less, that's better for business, right? So they were showing me that it really don't exist. They have to pay everybody equally, right? Now,
and that's what I'm asking for, the empirical evidence.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Is it?
No,
is it
again,
just
I didn't interview every businessman in Trinidad, right?
Some
some businessmen.
Right? And some of the business owners were women also, right? And they were saying that doesn't exist. There's no way legally, and I say legally because I'm not talking about a small parlor or something where you could pay somebody wherever you want. I'm talking about a business place where you have to apply. There's a job spec. There's no way that there's a position, so as let's say social work, that the salary is $1,000, and because you're a woman, I could try to pay you $900. There's no way that exists empirically thus far, right? Again, I ain't saying I interview every business space, right? And then coming to what you're saying, I agree with you about bringing in money. Because let's just say male or female, because there are some female athletes that might want to see more than male athletes. They should get more money in that field because it's based on not the club paying them. It's based on how much money they're bringing in. And I could even give a good example. When we thinking about football, we think about Messi, we think about Ronaldo, right? Who is the best female footballer?
I have no idea.
Martha.
Right, but you know that because of your profession. But most people don't even know that. So why should she even be paid more? Because nobody even want to go and see her play. If you understand what I'm saying. So I agree with the equality of that. If you're popular and everybody want to come and see you, take the money, whether you're a boxer, whether it is, wherever it is. Right? That's the sports arena. And with the business arena, I don't know anywhere where there's a job spec. There's a pay amount, and because you're a woman, I could pay you less.
But that's something I was even gonna ask Sherine initially, though, right? Because we talking equality, right? You said that you brought it to yourself. You put a personal example inside of there where you say you was in some job, right? And you and the guy, and you said that you have just about it's equal qualifications, right? So is it that is the exact same thing, yes or no? But even though you might have the same qualifications, will you all put in the same amount of work, like the same output was coming from both of you, or like
no, but we got recently hired, so that's not. So there would be no measure of whether or not.
Okay, so is that you're saying that from the start, he was going to get more and you were going to get less? All right.
Which I think is just ingrained bias, but yeah. This is probably not the audience to argue that.
and for me, and that's based on what your answer was saying earlier, where that's basically bias. It doesn't need to be gender based or anything like that. Because I can say for myself as well. Recently, I did a job, and my female counterpart, she's given more than me, and I actually put more energy and more vibes to the event, and I put up more. But it's like whatever. I mean, and that's simply because
and
the
you think
organizers.
It was because she was a woman?
No, I just think that's because the organizers deemed her more valuable, or the organizers see that because she may have this background, maybe she could get this. But I never thought to myself, because she's a woman, they decide to give her more, or because this or because that. It's just because, to me, it isn't always about just the gender or the sex or anything like that, but the person that is doing the hiring, or the person that is in charge, and they, as I said, bias, everybody has it, or what they believe, or their belief, right? So sometimes it all just boils down to people, right? And what people think and how they want to operate, or they want to run life or run their business. Because you just said the businessman simply said, if he could, he would. Maybe rightly so. Who's to say?
If he could pay employees less just because they're a woman, that's better for business for him.
Because even like in a simple variety store, where everybody could get the same minimum wage, I can tell you that that guy inside is going to be doing all the heavy lifting. Every time there's a box to move, he's going to get called to move the box, and he's pumping. He's not going in the gym or nobody, he's looking ripped just from the work, right? And all these girls, all these women maybe doing on the job is wiping on the shelf.
Yeah. I definitely, I think men are expected to do more manual labor than women.
Well, then they should be expected to be paid more.
I always Sprite speak up now. Man.
Yeah, good to the mics and we have the audio to pump it up. But I want to again, I always try to get an understanding of where we're coming from, and we're having a good conversation here. And what it comes down to is fair is fair. Fair is fair. I would say to you that I totally understand where you're coming from, Sherine. I would also say that maybe in an interview, sometimes it comes down to the interview, because whether it's male or female, even though you have the same qualifications or you may have better qualifications, how was the interview conducted? What did that person get from that person that might be more fitting to the particular role, and they feel they can get more, not just out of the specific role, but in terms of the add value.
Okay.
Having said that, I would say some of the most powerful women I know, or let me rephrase that. Some of the most powerful people I know in Trinidad and Tobago are female. Let's use Answer McCall and Guardian Media. Some of the most powerful members of Answer McCall are all female. So the most powerful, the highest positions in Guardian Media, all are female. And they're not put there because they're female. They're put there because they're the best person for the job. And I can tell you, they go toe to toe with the men on all fields, and very educated.
Well, I don't think I argued that women are not in powerful positions within Trinidad and Tobago. I think that they are. And I think that speaks a lot about our culture and how we see women and how we view women. But, if I was to really pull that, again, that's within a certain space, right? Like within a corporate space, within this space, you see how women are regarded. But if we were to look at it from violence against women, maybe, right? And I don't mean to come off topic or anything, but if you were to look at it as violence against women, right? We see where women are treated more unfairly in these kind of circumstances and these things. So even if we were to say, okay, but you know what? It have all these female CEOs out here, so that must mean that as a society, we love women and we're not biased towards women. I think we'd be wrong in saying that, because, the data does show that women do experience a lot more violence against them, and I think just a lot more unfair circumstances. And again, this could just basically be from my own experience, and again, it's biased because of my job, right? So this is what I see every day, so it's going to be what I think. So I do, want to put that out there as well. But again, I want us to be very careful in not making the conversation, well, we have all these CEOs and all these female leaders, so that must mean that women are doing better than men.
Not at all. You're right, because one of the things that even when you mentioned about gender-based violence, that 1 in 3, I think it's in Trinidad, that men being a more dominant force and physically. You will certainly have that over women, but what about? There's also the data that shows the higher of the two in terms of gender, in terms of suicide rate, are males.
Yeah,
and that's because males don't have that venue, that avenue to say what they feel, or if they themselves are being abused, because there are other forms besides physical. There's mental, there's financial.
Well, I think the lack of mental health within spaces normally occupied by men, and the discussion of mental health is a huge disservice to men, and definitely something that I advocate for.
So I just want, before we go to a break, just to put it into context, that we're not in any way saying that women aren't deserving of equality and in terms of even equity in pay. It's just a matter of how you position yourself, and we know we need to do better. We focused on mansplaining, and the whole reason for that topic, for example, was to identify that men, call men out on their we do it. Identify it, and when you know
has your
that,
behavior changed since then, since the mansplaining episode? Do you feel like it?
I don't know. Maybe if we touched one,
I must not your behavior change.
Did yours?
Did mine?
Yeah? Okay.
I would certainly say, yeah, like for me, a lot as I start off the show, you go in there with a certain subject, you've done a bit of research, and then you think, okay, well, I know I'm going to lead this conversation, and I usually would lead it, and then during the conversation, you realize, wow, I've gotten pause for thought. And then by the end of it, there's always nuggets, and there's always that, where I reflect. And I think, I could make a change, and you have a better understanding, even more than, ChatGPT of things like mansplaining and toxic masculinity and masculine energy. So
because the thing is not, we're not fighting, and that's sometimes where it gets a little skewed. To me, it's not men fighting against women, because if there are disparities on both ends, then we finding solutions will raise society in general.
Correct.
So why I ask about the evidence, because if women really gain less than men, that is something that should be fixed. If men doing more work than women and not getting paid, then that is something that should be fixed.
Correct.
Right? For all of us to rise. So that's why even when questioning it, because I want to make sure, because even in my own, because all of us have a bias, right? That is humans.
Facts.
Right? And that bias, of course, is not based on evidence. Most times it's based on life experiences, which could be evidence in some realms, but let's say it's not statistical evidence. So everybody have a bias. So sometimes we have to be able to cut through that bias and see the truth of things. And that's what I really want. Yes, I enjoy the banter, right? But I mean, in terms of what manhood is about also,
right,
is men being better in general. And of course, if we be better, the women around us better, our children, etc., etc. So I just add in that.
Perfect, you answer, and that's practical. That's pretty much what we want to get at, because we can get into sport, for example, if you really want, if women wanted equality across the board and not being very specific, which you are, then you can say, okay, well, why isn't Shelly Ann Fraser-Price running with Usain Bolt? There are reasons for that. We're not going to get into the biology, but the fairness of, as a human, unless it really it's something that's associated with biology, there should be equality.
I wonder if I agree with equality, but if I really believe in it after talking about this. I don't know, I don't really know, because
a hot topic there then becomes, how do women now feel about men saying to themselves, now I'm a woman, and now entering your sports, and
wait, we wasn't supposed to go to a break, because that's a
whole
new topic.
That's a whole new topic, but yes, we take a short break.
So welcome back to the conversation. Robert, again, I want to say thank you for inviting me. It's been a very interesting conversation. When you initially started, you talked about just saying no and kind of relating that to Jordan Peterson and women just saying no within the workplace and advocating for themselves. When I think of just saying no within the context of our society, and especially our generation, and of course my job as well, I think of just saying no in terms of male-female, well, I shouldn't say male-female relationships in itself, and violence, sexual violence. That's just what comes to me because of, again, what I do for a living. So just say no and what that means, right? And we can empower women, and even in my discussions that I've had on other forums, I always say, especially to young women, to just say no. If you don't like something, if you don't like a guy, say no. If he's like, let's go out, or let's take a drink. There's this thing that happens very, very often. I shouldn't say here, I think it just happens, where there's such a pressure to drink, right? Especially for women in social situations. And I've been in so many social situations where you want to drink? No, I'm all right. Nah, you gotta take a drink, right? And at what point is, even if I'm empowering a woman to just say no, that a man is hearing that no? Because I could tell a woman, just say no, but if men are not hearing the no, then what happens, right? So I really want to kind of delve into that and what just say no means to you and are you hearing when a woman say just say no, or does just say no means oh gosh girl, come now, and that happens. It happens so very often.
All right.
So
I jumping in. One is I agree with telling people in general just say no. I don't know statistically if women are pressured more than men to take a drink. To me, like say Trinidad, let's use Trinidad alone. I think everybody kind of pressured. I remember when I was younger and I didn't really want to drink, right? I grew up religious, right? And, I know not to take a drink. But God, you and say thing, even though I wasn't 18 yet. Men, I think, and I saw many men get under that pressure. So I'm not sure if it's a female-only thing.
I feel like you keep discarding every point that I bring up.
A little bit on
well, it's not
purpose,
really.
eh?
I don't think is why. Why do you?
But let me tell you why. Because one,
because you don't think it's valid in me saying that.
No. If we go in with the stats and what you were saying before, if I know for sure female are disproportionate with something, I want to hear about it so we could improve it. But at the same time,
women are raped way more than men.
Right, just now, we shouldn't rape, just now. We talk about drinking. We're not going with the rape.
No, but you're saying disproportionately affected, right?
Yeah, because we're talking about pressure to drink. That's the topic we stay on, pressure to drink.
But that was an example, and that's not the topic. The topic is a woman saying no and a man hearing them say no. So that was just an example of the bigger topic, in my opinion.
So I'll start from there and then
hearing.
Men hearing women when they say just say no.
I'll segue into that. Is that I think, and I saw with some men is that sometimes you don't hear the no, right? Because you want what you want, right? So if we're going straight from a man-woman point of view, I'm not saying all men or some men, right? Like we just say, I've seen it.
In your experience.
They want what they want. It's like when I've seen men do it, even men in my family, they go to a store and they have a female clerk and she's not smiling. And she have to smile for him now, right? Now, I always thought something was wrong with that because if a person feels the smile now, I like good service, good service. I want a smile, but at the same time, I can't force a smile. So there you go something small into the bigger things. Some men want, with some men, I'm not biased with it. Some men would want a woman to react to them a certain way. And if she doesn't, he would force it, right? I could see that where it's forced to the point of sexual violation or even forced.
Rape, not sexual violation. That's not a thing. Well, what is sexual violation?
I didn't reach rape yet, right?
But what is sexual violation to you in differentiating between rape and sexual violation? Tell me.
I was first in terms of speech.
If you touch it and it don't stick it in, so that's violation as opposed to rape.
Finish what I said.
I'm just wondering.
No, I'm interested now because I would have known the disconnect. To me, I would have thought rape is actual intercourse or penetration. But are you saying that there's one?
No, but I mean that. So when you say sexual violation, right? If you were to say, let's say sexual assault, so it's not rape, but it may be sexual assault or it may be some kind of criminality. It's not a sexual violation. You can't, you're not going to get arrested for sexual violation or a woman is going to say you sexually violated. I mean, they could.
Right. So good point. Before you reach the point of breaking the law, right? Because I've seen some men put their arms around women, right? And then you could see the woman uncomfortable, but that's what he wants. So if you want to go as sexual, it's some sort of violation because it's the person you're touching them. No, and I've seen that, and I've seen men because they want their way. So I'm saying it does exist, right? And it's something that we should,
why do you think that is? Why do you think men have this persistent kind of attitude when it comes to getting what they want from women?
I'll use two factors. It could be more, right? But I'll use two factors from what I've seen. Because I've had female clients who they came to me because they wanted to be more assertive in situations, right? And because of the type of work I do, I actually put them in the field to see how they operate with men so I could give them a better handle in terms of how to do things. So one is her confidence was low, right? And some men pick up on that. So they see an opportunity where they could take advantage of a situation. So one, taking advantage. Two, I've seen some men, because of ego. Now, ego sometimes is low self-esteem. So your self-esteem low. So let me say you can't use lyrics, or you're not confident in your looks, or maybe your possessions, or whatever you think to get a female. So then you become forceful to take what you want because of low self-esteem. And then on another realm, sometimes misinformation, because some of us men were taught you have to be persistent. If you're persistent, you'll get through. That's part of the methodology you need to be persistent. So even if you're getting clear signs that the woman maybe not interested or do like you, if you are persistent, you'll get through.
But sometimes Johan say, and I want to bring Kieron in because I noticed we haven't introduced him. Kieron, aka Chinese. Thank you for joining us. We also like to thank Thaddy for being part of the first couple of segments. But when you see it all the time where you talk to friends and the woman says it all the time. This man was real persistent. I tell him no about 7-8 times. I now happily married 3-4 children.
Yeah, but persistent and that trustiness.
Right,
yeah,
right.
That persistence is cool. I could ask. I just say it, I could ask a girl out on a date. I just in your DMs and just messaging you, and you blank me and blank me and blank me and blank me and blank me. That different from me.
Raffing you up in a party
and run you down and stand up behind your whole party. Two people behind you watching. All right, cool. Now time to go and make money. Trusting is different from persistent. Persistence is I could be very nice and formal. Hi, Sherine. Let's go to dinner. Tonight's bad, okay? Tonight's bad, okay? All right, cool. Next Thursday, I message her again, and then so forth and so forth until she say, all right, you know what? He ain't coming across the wrong way, but all right, let me see what's going on this Thursday, and I'll go out with him. You understand? And that is where's the difference between trustiness and persistence.
But woman want bad man. You say catch more flies than money, but the woman is not. It should be. But then
it's not bad man, no. It's not bad.
What do women want? Robert, you're
so
now saying so you obviously
since using my boy Jordan Peterson, according to Jordan Peterson research, right? Some of his research is that, and we could go both men and women because some men want bad girl too, right? It's not necessarily bad. Is what bad man and bad girl have is a certain level of assertiveness and a certain level of freedom that a lot of us crave. So a bad man or a bad girl don't really care about the rules and they are more themselves than people who are agreeable or people who not bad, they kind of stated rules but they really want a little more freedom. So they're attracted to according to the research, according to that research, they crave the freedom that person, man or woman, exhibits. What do you think, Kieron?
Sherine, what are you doing?
I like you.
Well, I do like the thirstiness. I understand what you're saying in terms of differentiating between but again, that's individual preference, right? So, but if we were to really talk about it on a more general aspect of, again, and I want to go back to empowering a woman to just say no and then a man not hearing it, right? So I'm gonna put this question out for anybody, I'm not looking at him in particular, Robert, but but how many times or have you guys ever been in a situation where, and I'm gonna say a sexual situation, where a woman has said no and you've continued and because you didn't hear that no, right? And let's say that was to happen. You didn't hear the no. She tell you no, you didn't hear the no, y'all have sex. In your perception, y'all had sex, right? She goes to the police and reports she was raped. And you're like, wait, what? Nah, we just had sex. And then her report to the police is, yeah, but I told him no, I told him no, I told him no, right? So now the police is asking you, did she tell you no? And you sit down there and you say, oh shit, you know what? She really told me no. So I'm saying that because this is a very likely situation that could happen. And I'm not saying this to scare men or anything, but you're
don't be scared because when we had
you
that
really have to listen.
You would have never known. You thought listening and the actor woman say no is like being choked. She part of the thing.
Correct.
I done inside there already.
Up until she show up to the police station the next day and say she tell you no, and you can't tell in your head, you might not say it. You might not want to admit it because you don't want to admit rape or something like that. But in your head, when you sit down home, you're saying, you know what, the girl really told me no. So it's really a matter, in my opinion, of introducing the idea of the conversation of consent and what that is. But again, I don't know if men are ready to do that because it's much easier for you to just go until a girl gives in as opposed to, can I have sex with you? Can I kiss you? You know what I mean?
I don't know what kind of man use people. the other way around?
but also to just cover yourself as a man, right?
But what about the other way around as we talk about
Alright,
sex?
you go ahead.
A woman, and you're on top of a man. And the man says, hey, no, I got whatever.
And
you like,
the legs do that.
you understand? Women know that the legs grip and you're whole and you're still.
You know how much men make sure
Yeah, I know,
comment that they don't want to make?
You say no, and the woman
Really?
know. The woman know totally because you get to that point of when you start, you can't. There's like.
Well, then I would advise that person to go to the police and make
Sherine,
a report against rape.
We're being real.
I know.
It's a real.
But that's something that could really happen, and the only way the culture is gonna change.
Yeah, let me throw something out, right? And a lot of people disagree with me with this, but thus far I've seen this to be true. Men, right? We men, everything is our fault. Right? Hear them out. Everything is our fault. We are responsible for everything. We are responsible for heading society. We are responsible for when everything go right or wrong. Just wait now. I told you you could disagree with me. Just now. Here, so because from everything I'm hearing, right?
I'm here with the
because
head of society
even with sex, we responsible for to make sure nothing goes wrong. Let me use what I'm Sherine saying, right? And so I train that out because even with the no, I think a man should be cognizant during sex to make sure that the woman enjoying herself, next thing, something going on, etc. But I've never heard anybody say the opposite. But let me go with that, right? Let me go with that. And then research, so this is not me saying this, research shows that even in sex, a woman would prefer the man take off her clothes and she take off her own clothes because he has to be the person doing it.
Wait, who did this research? Where you get that from?
We could I think Jordan Peterson had something about that, right?
You agree?
But
I know. Let's.
I want to take off my own clothes, but again, this is not the topic of conversation.
Let me go back from the start. What I throw is that everything is a man's fault. I throw that because based on what I hear, and because even consent, if we go to some of the longitudinal study thus far from places where the consent is actually low, right? Even women say that lame, if you understand what I'm saying. They don't want a man to come to ask consent. They want a man to finesse them. They want etc. etc.
I'm gonna have to wholly
even
disagree
somebody
with that.
for the longitudinal, to me, kind of situational because I don't think in countries that are around 100 years or 50 years yet. But even in some of those cases, so I'm not saying anything wrong with consent. I think no man should violate a woman in any way.
Do you think a man should receive consent before having sex with a woman?
Of course.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Anybody should have consent.
So why are there so many instances where I'm saying no, and I'm not just saying me personally, but I'm just saying like a woman is saying no, and there's this culture of persistence.
So are you saying that?
Is there not a culture of persistence? Do you agree?
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I don't know what that was said. I don't know what kind of man you sleep with, but what I saying is if you blank him already and you continue, alright, if you need bedroom and you blank and you continue, then that's your choice to get up and get out of there because it's either you go and let him do it or you that scared that something will happen that you're...
Right, I love that you say that because, so is it, so now we're in a situation where we're in the bed, I'm saying no, and he keeps going, right? And a woman...
and leave, dog.
Right, but not all women can do that, right? Not all people could do that. And then if we were to talk about that, we'd have to look at the imbalance of power, right? So a man is usually the one who is in that relationship, the person in power, be it physically, be it emotionally,
Everything
be it mentally.
Remember us saying that.
The man, no, but you have to discuss the imbalance of power when you're discussing something like this,
agree,
right?
But you're now giving further clarity. So I'm saying to you, if you're in the police station, let's go back to that example that you used. So you're in the police station the day after, and the police officer asks you, did she or did she not say no? Now there are moments of your deep thrust, literally and figuratively, and you are, your eyes roll back and you're at it, whatever the position is, right? And she says no. There's a big difference to, as Chinese pointed out, you pick up yourself and you try to move, and he holds you. Now that he holds you, then he would know at that point that, listen, I'm in many ways, you're now very conscious of a physical action of she's trying to fight and get away, and you're holding this woman down.
So you're saying that there should be different levels of no? So
No, I'm not
if she
saying-
said,
no, I'm not
because
saying-
we
he didn't
can't,
finish his
we
quiz
can't, we
statement,
can't
so
have
you're
a,
not saying
we can't
anything
have
yet.
a segment saying just say no,
Yeah, but
and then in the
but-
segment
no,
you're
but
saying,
But he didn't finish.
well,
He
she
didn't
really
finish
say
what you
no.
were saying, so he's not
Okay.
saying anything yet.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm trying to get at is that when I first heard that you know once a woman says no, it's rape, right? I'm saying that at that point I'm saying that look at the man's perspective at that point, that he mightn't have heard, he mightn't think she's serious. You know, it's like, hey, we've come home here, we've reached to this point, and we're doing it. But if she's
But
saying,
then that's the discussion right there, that you just said that she might not think he's serious. And I think it's the responsibility of the man to now
Remember what I
learn
was saying.
that when a woman says no, she's serious.
So she
I
said-
can't
she
say
said
no,
no, Sherine,
and
and
you
she's still
say
so. And she's
because
still taking throws with
yes,
it.
that is very possible.
without making a move to say no and some sort of.
Because again, men are usually in a more dominant position. So
But if you
What's
like
the
to make
dominant
a
position?
so they're physically
So
just
wait. So look at my side, look at your side. You telling me and you what's the war? Right? Me and you in the bedroom war, innit? Yeah. You saying, wait, boy, I could take you. I could take you. Let me hold you down quick, and then get out it. Like, dog, what do you mean? What do you mean?
But I just
Like,
want
for instance, I just saying this is probably a bad
Charlie, you
example.
went
Hold on.
You
This is a bad example, but hold on, right? Like, it's half time and party and thing.
Yeah.
Like, I should be going and call for sexual harassment, go and call the Coast Guard, and then we going on cruise, right? And I'll take thing and I saying, you know, I'm here with whoever it may be, and then saying me because what take thing on do? Take thing on watch me and say, dog, look at this food, and just wind back on me, and I can't read nothing, I don't know. Oh gosh, sis, I heard me,
that's a different
I heard me little
party,
mama,
I
like when
think
little
that-
mama went up saying, oh god, just come off the stage, just come off now. I can do that, come on, oh
You
god,
want
come
to
now.
take the front, yeah?
Get my ease up now, please. And alright, cool, they'll wind back for a little 20, you know, and whatever, and then they'll go about their business, but I now get cruise rape.
No way, no get violated.
Yeah, no, that's a violation. I didn't want that to happen to me.
then you should have
How I get overpowered?
but
The same argument. You know.
yeah, but that's
You were
different.
saying that she should have leave, and she's
Receiving
saying
a
that
wine
you should
and
have
a
moved.
party
Yeah,
is different
no,
from...
that what do you mean? If I don't want it, I don't want
Yeah,
it.
but receiving a wine and a party.
Sherine,
Come on,
I
guys.
fed up.
No.
You know, they take it upon themselves, grab everything, and then they take it upon themselves. But I want to bring it back into the context because I really want people to understand where I'm coming from. I'm saying to you that if you're in bed and you're no longer interested and you show no signs based on you're saying the words,
That should be
right?
enough.
But if you're saying the word,
I
you're saying
argue that
no,
that's enough.
I'm not saying it isn't. When a woman says no, it's no. But I'm saying to you that women again must also take responsibility to understand that if you are in the throes of it and you no longer want it and you're not making any other gesture apart from saying no, how is it at that point where the man is thinking, well, you consented up until this point, and are you really serious? Like, have you ever been in a relationship in a where you know a woman says, "Oh no, I don't want any." You sure you don't want any, babe? Yeah, I don't want any. And then when you get it, half your plate gone. Right? So I'm just saying that
I don't know how you think you could compare food and sex
but I'm
but in
just
this
trying
context.
to say, if you're not, because we're not talking about rape just in the context of a one-night stand. We could talk about in a relationship.
So what do you think the awareness should be apart? Because what I'm hearing is
some sort of move,
so
no.
just say no and punch him. So
No,
that
not
should
a
be the name of the
punch.
segment.
Not a punch.
Nah.
It could be just say no and maybe a prompt or something like you turn your head or something.
So why?
that shows
Okay.
the man
So
that
then,
I'm
why
not
do we
interested.
have to teach women to do something other than just say no? Just say no plus something, because men. This is what I'm hearing. They're not
That's the
capable.
hearing, you're not
They're not
listening.
capable of when
not
I
that
say
easy.
when I say because that's what you're saying.
That's
Yes,
what
it
I'm
is.
saying.
You're saying that okay. It can't be just the word no. It has
I'm
to
not-
be the
I'm
word.
just
I mean,
saying-
that's what you
Let her finish.
You're saying it has to be the word no. Plus, you need to move your head or you need to do this, right? And
That's not
so
what I'm
let me.
saying.
You just say that.
let
So
her
what I'm
finish.
saying is, why does it have to go from just saying no plus do something else, as opposed to the conversation continuing to stay, man, you know what? She said no, so let it just be no.
Right, so
Right? But that's not what y'all are doing. Y'all are saying, it can't be just saying no, it had to be just saying no plus something
We're
else.
not saying plus. What I'm saying to you is, we hear me well, right? Hear and listen.
Situational awareness.
Hear me
I
well.
did.
I am saying to you that just say no. No is no, regardless. Right? Make it very clear. No is no. What I'm saying to you, just like in a job interview, and we're talking about add value, I'm saying when you say no, if you are really saying no at that point, it will be more in your favor to show more than just no.
Yeah, okay, but I'm literally saying
as opposed
no.
to no and turn it some sort of gesture that shows him, man,
Wait, let me jump in now. Both all they went. Just now. Both all they went
say no
head to head.
plus an action.
Just now.
Which we usually do in these conversations.
Just now, Robert, what you're saying is correct. If a woman say no, no is no, right?
Correct.
Right. What you're saying about another gesture, I do quite agree with you with that, because I don't know what the next gesture is, right? Now, what I'm saying is...
I'm going to tell women now, just say no and punch them.
Just no, let me finish now, right? You said before, men, and because with this on camera, we could rewind and say, you said that men have to be capable of understanding what a woman means. Now, remember when I said I was going back about... Just now.
But I'm saying no.
Just now.
You don't even need to be
Just
clairvoyant.
now. What I'm saying is about men having the power, and everything is our fault. Men, a lot of responsibility is on us to understand what we mean and also what women mean, right? Now, you can argue with me this, but what you're saying is clearly that, and I could show many examples of this, that if you have power, that means with great power comes great responsibility. And understanding sometimes the nuances of a woman might be a high learning curve. And thus far, what I've seen is that is just the burden we had to carry, about understanding, because you meet 10 different women, signals of no, yes, it's 10 different things that you may have to understand, or else, based on what we're saying, then your is grass. So understanding the language, right? So today you learn Japanese, tomorrow you learn Chinese, tomorrow you learn African, tomorrow you learn thing. That's just the burden sometimes, or the privilege, or the power that we have to understand the responsibility that we have when we're dealing with women.
Yeah, I agree, and I think also understanding the risk, right? So in me saying this and me advising, I don't want to say advising, but me just having this discussion, it's to let you guys know that that is a very real possibility, that, you could be having sex with a woman and then she says no, and next day she in the police station saying she said no, and it would be an actual fact that she did say no. Even if we were to throw in, so let's say we threw in, maybe drugs or alcohol within the mix, right? Trinidad has a very big party culture and party scene. I know I wasn't living in Trinidad then, but there was this, what was the drug? What's the drug or drink that
Molly?
No. Now it's Molly, but like back in the day, there was a drug that they would give, Spanish fly, correct, right?
Whoa,
and it was
Spanish fly, boy. Whoa,
right.
Dude.
And it was a very well-known fact that if you give a woman Spanish fly, she becomes so intoxicated that you're able to have sex with her. And it became
Tostiness again.
So now, seeing that that's the culture, right? We all accept that that's what has happened within the past.
It's not the culture, but it has happened in the past.
It's a culture of it happening. It's discussed almost as like common knowledge, right? So we no longer have Spanish fly. So let's say now we have new drugs in, right? So we have Molly, we have ecstasy. So now it's going to be translated into that. So then the question becomes, if a woman is high on Molly, high on some kind of ecstasy, or that she's drunk and she's saying no, then what is the responsibility and or the risk to a man in that situation? And these are things that you know, as men, you just want to think about, right?
But Sherine,
and be aware of.
In the police station and the man says, I didn't hear her say no.
Well, then,
But she's already started to say that she consented to sex, so they have that on record. They consented to sex. So the question then is, well, did you hear her say no? Because she's now saying she said no, but she's already agreed that she consented to sex.
How she's saying no and consented at the same time?
Because we are saying that during sex, the woman then says no. So at any point she changes her mind, no is no, right? And it's rape, and that's what men are hearing, and that's what's part of the scariness. Now, if you're taking it forcefully from the start, then you know it's rape, right? It's obvious.
Yeah.
The surprising factor here is that during the act, if she says no during that point, and there's no punch or there's no movement to get out of dodge, right? That if she goes to the police station the next day, you're going to be in shock. To then say to yourself, I don't understand, she consented. Now, when they go to the police officer and you say, yeah, she said no, then they have you there for rape. But what if you say, I didn't hear her? Well, but it's on record that she has said she consented.
Right, but it's still a matter, right? So I guess it's up to the investigator to collect evidence, and I guess it's maybe if the matter goes to the judge or the jury.
What evidence? You saying you didn't hear?
But again, that's what due process of law is. It's going to be your word against hers, and you guys go through whatever system. It's
right, but that's the whole long run it. But I just saying, I know they might have to cut this out or something. But what should like this, right? No one should. I'm not saying that because this is not the kind of people I know. I know a couple of people. You understand? It don't even need to be that serious, and there's like, I guess, woman equality with men thing, you understand? Like, he gets some sex, you understand? You know, they give like a little choke out, a little hard slap, nothing wrong with that, cool. I do that thing, but just saying, a little choke out, a little hard slap, cool, nothing wrong with that. Some days later, she and the soldier fall out, you understand? And she just don't like that one, go on by the police station and say, yeah, well, this, look, you raped me, look, hard slap, hard cuff. And in his head, he thinking, but wait now, but no, we do this together, look, I take some hard cuff too, you understand? And at that point, police want to take your word for it over his. Right, but that was he want to take a lock up and police want to come by your house and embarrass him and...
Well, and that was a discussion we were having earlier as well. That is a plight that men have to deal with, right? False allegations. And again, it would be up to trusting the system.
Right, so when you say, yeah, boy, man is thing and persistent and thing, that is the kind of man that must come wrong you or you going wrong. Because if I tell me no, or we lie down in bed and think let me know, oh, God, my God, yeah, you know what, I just not into this. All right, well, what? So I just big spoon, use little spoon.
Chinese, that's you. That's
well,
not...
right, that's how I think 9 out of 10 minutes.
That's not
and I think also it comes down to, because we need to take a break and come back, because there's a lot in here, a lot of good discussion, and we just need to really bring it into focus as to what the message is. We understand the message is very clear. It's just say no, and at any point a woman says no, it's no, unless that's a part of your safe word. And in doing that, you know, it also comes down to your answer, I think, the type of man, because for me, you know, if I'm, you know, being with a woman, a big part of me is making sure that she's pleasured. And if that's a huge part of me that's where my ego comes in. I want to make sure she's pleasured, she's had a good time. And therefore, if in that circumstance that's not happening, then any form of no, whether it's said or it looks that way, or you get in a particular vibration, I done.
If a form of being pleasured is forceful, then what? Then you do that too.
So that's one we could come back from the break with. That's a good point. You know, whether that's part of, you know, what they call foray. You know, those are all scenes that people like to enact, and that could be all part of your.
All right. I never heard that before. All right.
You know,
okay.
Part of your bedroom antics. Take a short break.
Right, people, so welcome back to the manhood conversation. Now, we discuss many different topics between the dynamics between men and women, just say no, we talk about equality, and we talk about even asking for consent and what constitutes rape, and in terms of people in the middle of the act of sex, that someone could say no. And you have to acquiesce to that, or else it could be considered rape. And we're trying to figure out exactly how you would know what no is. We discussed no means no, and just coming in with some of those dynamics, because I found some research from New York, where affirmative consent was actually implemented in law, and some of the dynamics surrounding it. So I'll just read it quickly. Police and defense attorneys may no longer present the victim's lack of refusal during sex as evidence of non-consent, because they were saying that once you sign the document, now there's an actual document for affirmative consent, where before two people have sex, they actually have to sign something saying that they both consented. And they're saying once they signed, neither person could refuse in the middle of sex. Now, this is important because it kind of even negates what we were talking about. And this is important for me because human dynamics are such a fluid thing. And really understanding when is no, what means no, what is the norms of the dating culture, should I keep pursuing? It really brings into question that gray area. Now, personally, I say if somebody say no, is no, whether it is male or female. If somebody say no, they don't want to do something, is no. Also, I think most times, and I could be wrong, that you could feel the energy when somebody don't want to do something. I say most times, because again, there's human dynamics, and as I was saying before, with us men, we have the privilege and the responsibility and the learning curve of figuring out what every woman we interact with means in certain scenarios. So I'm saying that we men, because we have power in certain scenarios, we could be responsible with our power to ensure, because if, even if a woman say that she consents, yes, she wants to have sex with you, based on the law, if in the middle of the sexual act she says no, that and she goes and reports it, it could be considered rape. So, they say knowledge is power. So understanding that this is the reality of things could be based. You could put it in your mind so that when you're in the dating scenario, this is something to consider. Now, it might be a lot, but if this is the reality right now, it's better to face reality so you can be able to navigate it in a healthy manner.
You could imagine, and I'm using the word tie-upness. A man will get in his head after hearing something like this on manhood. Imagine you in the middle of the act, and a woman says no, meaning it might touch another orifice. Or something might happen, and you go, no, and you just in your head, no, and you might start to pull back, and all of a sudden there's floppy loppy, you're done. You're not even interested again, because the anxiety you might be feeling at that point, at any kind of thing, because she might just be no to that position, or no, it hurts, or no, you change, and you just hear no and fly off like, okay, and it could throw men off.
Yeah, I completely
So women
agree
also have to know that if you say no, and you're not saying no with a certain element of forcefulness, I'm not saying you can't be overpowered. I'm saying where no, the man mightn't hear it, or no meaning the man might understand specifically where you're coming from. No is no, and I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying that if you know and you can be in a situation where the man, you start to get a lot of paranoid men out there.
Well, can I just say, I think, Robert, I think it's interesting that in a discussion about consensual sex and a woman saying no, meaning indicating she no longer wants to have sex with this person, and that could be for very different reasons, that your concern is how the man thinks, how the man reacts to hearing no seems to be your concern, as opposed to the state that the woman is in that brings her to where she has to say no, right?
And so I take your point, but this is manhood. And the whole aim of this show is to reach men and young men and to give them advice and to let them know where they stand. So it's not one concern over another.
Okay.
Just saying no is no. And of course, we want how we show up. And I don't believe in domestic violence. I don't believe in abuse of women. I don't believe in non-equality. So I'm saying to you that what my concern is to be able to express to the young men and men listening here, to be able to say, okay, well, I'm asking you as a female to also reach out to women and let women understand, as we've done in shows, the trigger points and what may, in your consideration, even if we're saying no, and even if we're saying that violence of any kind could never be accepted, a woman should also know that, listen, it wouldn't go against you to understand triggers, to understand that this is how you can
I agree.
assist
So you
to
should
avoid
make your no. You,
a little more prominent.
a little more powerful.
A little more powerful, so the man knows that because.
So then the term "no" means no. Is that right?
Or
is
no
it
for you
no
to hear?
plus?
Because
so
we
it's
also
no
talk,
means no, but loud enough for the man to hear and forceful enough for him to understand that you mean it. So it's like, so then it's not really no means no, it's no means no plus all these other factors.
Well, let's
I just think it would be more beneficial to men if from you hear no, to relieve yourself of any risk, of any kind of
just be
unwanted.
paranoid.
No, I'm not saying just be paranoid. I'm just saying be careful because this is what the reality is.
No, but that's how the game is. That's why this will apply to everybody. That like certain people like.
Yeah.
Like, men have things to lose, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I think say,
absolutely.
If I think just say, I'm somebody in the right mind might be like, you know what? Before I get myself in a monkey pants here, let me just not be a part of that.
Yeah.
And then where do you draw the line? You know, we spoke about choking or that sort of sexual play. Where do you draw the line?
Well, I think sexual proclivity is it's a different conversation in itself, right?
What we have time to talk about.
I'm not a sex therapist, and I don't feel like I have much to say on sex, or that's probably a horrible thing to say, but I think that's different. I think discussions about what you like in sex, or even a checking in, like, you know, do you like this? Is this okay? You can get verbal or non-verbal cues of whether or not you should continue or not continue.
So there are cues.
I think I'm not saying there isn't.
So there could be cues in no, a cue to say no off or no stop. I'm just saying the cue is there.
Body language, right?
Body language.
If it is you choke a thing and then hit your ass, slap pow, and then
what's a thing? Why are you calling it a thing?
I know.
What is that?
I know, right? We gotta cut this.
Yeah, don't like.
You talk, man. You talk.
No, because we need
I
to
don't
people
think
where
you
they
If
are.
I in bed, if I in
Bad with a
bed with
woman.
a woman, and end up choke she and hit she a little hard slap bow, and then next time around here now, I look and hit she that same hard slap again, and she's had a flinch up and then yeah, okay, cool.
Right.
No hard slap again and I pass, because that's too.
It's a cue.
And again, that's picking up on the cues too, which I think is safe.
So again, this is a topic that we will continue to talk about in manhood, and we'll continue to have these conversations. And I want people to know that nothing that was discussed here is a specific opinion of anyone. It's a discussion here to meet people where they're at, and to have everyone know, you know, everyone's thinking their own thoughts, and it's about trying to have a discussion around that. And sometimes it's a heated discussion, but it's a very powerful discussion and a positive one in the end, because the end result is always to make a positive change. So, you know, if we can have some context, that, you know, what's your takeaways on that? Let me start with Sherine.
On what?
On Just Say No, on the topics today. Do you feel that you've been heard?
I do. I think that this forum and this outlet is necessary because our world is changing, right? And so fast, so rapidly. And I think men and or women really shouldn't be caught up in saying, I didn't know that it was like this, or I didn't know that this is how it is now, right? So having these discussions and having these forums and understanding the risk of certain actions to both men and or women, I think is very, very important.
And with regards to equality, what are some of the things that you'd want to see apart from just pay or position? How can someone make sort of an immediate change, low-hanging fruit, and then grow to having a better understanding of what women are going through and feeling?
Well, I always say that I think violence against women is heavily perpetrated on men's assumption of women or what men think of women. So I think if men were to change how they see and or view women, and it could be small things, you know, like Chinese not calling them thing, right? And maybe I'm not to blame you, but you know, less objectification. I think those kind of really small, low-hanging fruit things is what can really change the culture of men towards women. Yeah.
You know, that's a whole other topic I'd like, because you mentioned objectification, but women like men, you know, you want to feel
Nah, those Thaddy next.
You know, that's a whole. But
do not say what women you think women want to
agreed,
feel, Robert.
I agree. I stand down. You want to say?
I've often heard about the battle of the sexes, right? And I know sometimes we do it in a joking manner, so I'm not taking away from the joke and the fun of it. But inevitably, I don't believe in the battle of the sexes because nobody wins. So it don't make sense that we fight in each other. I advocate for truth, and that's what we started manhood about men speaking the truth. So therefore, if you're speaking the truth, and now we adding both men and women, say exactly what you mean, say exactly how you feel, right? What you like, what you don't like, and be honest to it yourself. So even going before being honest with someone else, right? For us men, be honest with yourself in terms of what you want from a woman, what you're willing to do, what you don't want to do, etc. Also, I still adding in that men, we have to ensure and learn every language of every woman that we know, so that we can navigate it properly. Whether you find that hard or difficult, right now,
And
that's the reality.
Age as well, right? Maybe.
That is the reality that I see, and talking to the men and older men, younger men, I'm always willing to be proven wrong, but we no means no. Either way, we take it, and let's not fight each other. Let's hear each other out, and so we could make a healthier society. Kieron.
Me, I think no means no thing. Pretty easy, in my opinion. I think no.
That's great. That's
I think
really
no
good
is
to
no.
hear.
Like, okay, cool. If somebody say no, okay, move on with your life. You know what I mean? There are weird things you could be doing that run down what not for you. To get yourself in a big monkey pants. I just say, if we talk about sex or whatever it is, you know, and then, well, I wasn't here for the big equality part, but equality thing, if you just ask me about that, that's a whole next thing, because I don't find have any man-woman inequality. You know, I know women making more money than men in the same position as she said, like how she was saying, she and homeboy coming to the same time, and he ended up making more money than she was making. But I know it's in the opposite. Like I work in places where the secretary making more money than me. Why? Why you think? There you go, you understand? So the inequality thing and the equality thing, I don't think there's maybe in your industry, but that's like a big, super big issue that I find is something that happens in Trinidad plenty in terms of work and those kind of things.
Okay.
So, I would like to close by just, saying, I know Sherine is probably really wanting to retort to that statement, but, what it comes down to is there's certainly, what we can agree on, Sherine, and guys, we can agree there is a movement. There clearly was a disconnect, and there still is an ongoing disconnect. I mean, the Western Hemisphere, it's a bit more pronounced in terms of the changes that are being made, as opposed to into some other countries. And with that being said, there needs to be change. Human is human. The position is the position, and may the right man get the job, but may the right person get the job. And there's just certain positions that are better suited to a male, and there's certain positions that are better suited to a female. But in the bigger context of things, the better person gets a job, not down to ethnicity, not down to gender. It's just the best suited person. So, and that's the way I feel about it. But we have a lot to do. We've only scratched the surface, if that.
I mean, a perfect world, that's how you like it to be, right?
But it's not utopia. But the whole, in order to make the change, you have to acknowledge that change needs to be made. And I think, on shows like Manhood and many other shows and many other discussions, I don't think anybody comes out as an advocate to say, leave women where they're at.
No, maybe I missed part of this, but I'm just saying, young lady, what in terms of all this women's rights and feminist things and all them kind of things, right? What you have that we does that you all can do? No, in terms of obviously, hard labor. I just say, what rights that we have that you all don't have now?
None.
Exactly. So what's the fight about?
Well, because, research shows that women are discriminated in many aspects of life. So I think that would be a whole different show. So for you to say that because women have the same rights as men doesn't mean that they don't experience bias, I think that would be incorrect to say.
Agreed, because it also comes down to everybody can apply for a position, but who gets the position in the end? And is there a boys' club? Boys' clubs exist, but
No,
they're
like-
also.
There's a huge,
But that's a whole, as you said, that's a whole other topic of discussion. We understand that it is there, and we have to start acknowledging it, right? I do take Johannes' point that women also need to understand the part that they play, and even though it might seem to why should we be doing that? And if we continue to do that, the definition of insanity, continue to keep doing the same thing, but you're expecting a different result. So if you know that there's certain things that are going to trigger men to do certain behaviors, instead of saying, well, that's their ego, that's their insecurities, that's how they show up. I've heard it before, men and their right? But that's what it is. So if you continue to do those things, don't expect a different result. But if you want to make a change, sometimes the change needs to start from somewhere. So the little changes may reap big results. And when it comes to my thoughts on no, I just want to be very clear. No is no. And I think the safer thing to do is to say, let's debate it after. Let's debate the why. If you're in the throat, you're deep into it, and the woman says no, or whoever your partner is says no, at that particular point, stop, debate it after. Hey, why you said no? Let the ego come out at that point. Safeguard yourself. So, Johannes, Sherine, Chiney, aka Kieron, aka Chiney, always a pleasure. This has been Manhood, another really powerful discussion. No means no, just say no.
Manhood, brought to you by Jameson, natural sources since 1922 and Racetrack.